Hello, everybody. Michelle here from michellesmidheaven.com. And today I'll be taking a look at the new moon that's going to happen within 1 degree of fixed star Algol, also known as the demon head. And I'll be focusing on human beings as image makers because of the aspects that are going to happen in this new lunar month. Let's go through the list first. So the new moon happens at 25 degrees of Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So the exalted moon in Taurus awakens Venus, which means we need to pay extra attention to what Venus is up to this lunar month that lasts until the next new moon in mid-June. Okay, first of all, less than 3 days after the new moon, Venus is going to move from Gemini into Cancer. And that's where she'll basically spend the rest of the lunar month together with exalted Jupiter. So the element of water becomes a little more important for us. And it's the moon's water sign. So absorbing, reflecting in the broadest sense of the word, and the creative powers of images are all going to come to the foreground a little bit more. And I'll come back to that. So then Venus will immediately be making a sextile to Mars in Taurus, then a square to Neptune on the 22nd. So imagination, images are important again. And then at the end of the month, Venus will also be squaring Saturn before conjoining Jupiter on June 9th. So Venus, as the ruler of this lunar month, is taking us on an interesting journey. But the most important thing is always the beginning of something new. So let's start with the new moon on Algol, because Algol is going to be activated at the start. So this is also going to have an influence on the entire month. And Algol is quite an exceptional fixed star. It flickers because it's part of a binary system. So Algol is basically eclipsed by a dimmer star, so its light kind of dims and returns. So there is a fixed rhythm there, which we don't see with the other fixed stars. And in this book that I have right here, I don't know if you can see it, it's called Star Lore of All Ages. It is said that Algol was likened to the eye of a great demon peering down through space, seeking his prey. Okay, so Algol, meaning the demon from the Arabic word Algol, was called the blinking demon or the demon star, and also the Gorgon's head or the head of Medusa. So one path to interpreting Algol is running through that ancient Greek mythology where Medusa was cursed. She was turned into a monster by Athena. So you all know the story. Medusa was given venomous snakes for hair, and anyone who looked at her directly would instantly turn into stone. So Medusa and Algol represent something that could turn you into stone, a petrifying gaze that stops you in your tracks. So that's the first basic interpretation. You encounter something that makes you freeze, and in that sense, Algol may confront you with something so terrible that you're rooted to the spot with fear. Now, as the story goes, Perseus went on a quest to take Medusa's head, and of course, he couldn't look at her directly, so he watched her through her reflection on the polished shield that he was carrying. And this indirect seeing through the reflection, that's important because it appears constantly in mystical traditions. So the idea here is that reality in its naked form is way too powerful for our ordinary consciousness. We cannot handle facing it and taking it all in directly. Okay, so Perseus cuts off Medusa's head, and interestingly, after being severed from the body, the head still retains its petrifying power. That's significant for a couple of reasons, because the point here is that Perseus, by decapitating her, he doesn't kill Medusa's terrifying abilities. Instead, he actually seems to extract her power, and now that power is no longer attached to a grounding body, which you could argue makes it even more dangerous then, right? And then Perseus offers the head to Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom. And she then hangs the head on her shield. We need to keep in mind that in ancient times, snakes symbolized knowledge and wisdom. So the snakes on Medusa's head represent a deeper kind of knowledge. And I think that in a way you could say that real wisdom itself bears the face of annihilating terror. While our modern thinking kind of assumes that more awareness, more consciousness is automatically better, our ancestors seemed a little more cautious because they thought that a great revelation could blind you or petrify you in this case, or destroy your humanity more precisely. Because when the head is no longer connected to the body that contains all your emotions, then what you get is soulless knowledge. That's one of the potential powers of a new moon on Algol. You're granted access to something, you discover something, you discover knowledge or a truth that changes everything because it stops you in your tracks. That truth can truly freeze you. But as always in this realm, there are two sides to this coin. An activation of Algol can also indicate that you somehow become condemned to embody a truth that makes other people freeze. It can mean that you bring a revelation, something so uncompromising, something so painfully real that other people find it very hard or impossible to tolerate it. And this does not have to mean that you are intentionally attacking anyone. It could be that your presence, your being, embodies something that is hard to tolerate. Other people's petrification is a consequence just of your presence. Medusa's gaze, by the way, is never reciprocated, right? Because when people look at her face, they're turned into stone. She's unable to truly encounter anyone, unable to connect with anyone. She's decapitated by someone she never even saw. So I kind of find it very fitting that in the Garden of Taurus, the paradise of Venus, the goddess who brings people together, in that beautiful place, we also find its heavy, devastating opposite, the loneliness of the Medusa, the pain of the demon carrying an unbearable reality, an unbearable truth. And I also want to address something else that Algol brought up for me. You can look at the demon star as a symbol of the cold head that represents knowledge and technology severed from emotion, right? Because the body stores the emotions, and you could say is therefore severed from sound judgment and real practicality as well. Isn't it so that through what we think we know, through judgments formed by the head severed from the heart, and through technology, human beings have started behaving like severed heads? This disconnect between head and body is an obvious interpretation of Algol, but I think it's the perfect time to truly realize something here because I think human beings are essentially image makers, image bearers and image receivers, as I mentioned at the beginning. We make images every night in our dreams. We make images when we daydream or when we meditate or come up with a plan. It's so natural that we forget how magical that really is. We are all deeply touched by what we behold, but we're all severed heads when it comes to technology because we're almost oblivious to what the stream of images on devices like your phone is actually generating within the mind and body. It's not a passive thing. Scrolling is not innocent escapism. Watching the news is not innocent. These images enter us with an incredible force that we completely underestimate, and very much in a petrified way, as if people are turned into stone. A lot of people are glued to their phones, absorbing a relentless stream of imagery. And this is dangerous because it's how you're completely cut off from those, how those images affect your body, your emotions, and your beliefs. But not being aware of something doesn't stop the effects. Images are like containers, you could say, and they shape the water that carries your emotions. And earlier I mentioned that the element of water is playing a very big role this month because the ruler of this lunar month, Venus, is going to spend almost the entire time in Cancer with Jupiter. And to me, the moon sign of Cancer represents the quintessential creative power in the sense that the moon is the great mother. She's the mother of all shapes and forms in the physical realm. Water is our first environment in the womb. We all come from water. And the human body is mostly water, and that body stores emotion and memories in water. Water itself has memory as well. So a new exalted moon on Algol symbolizes being cut off from the body, being unaware of what happens there. Images or narratives in the news, scrolling on social media, binge watching a series, that can petrify us. We don't move while the imagery influences the body and while emotionally we're going through everything our eyes absorb. We sit still for hours before our screens, kind of transfixed by images that can create fear and envy and desire and outrage or fascination in the body. It's a kind of enchantment, isn't it? It's a kind of stoning of the soul, you could say. And I think that our ancient ancestors understood what images do because for them, the stories that they told, their mythology, was not just fiction meant for entertainment or escapism. As we're telling stories, we actually see what's happening. We're imagining what is happening. So art was very powerful, very serious as well, because they knew that images were powerful. Stories were kind of initiatory as well. You don't listen to a story just so that you can kill time and be entertained. It is supposed to stir something within you. And you have to pay attention to what is moving in your body, how it's affecting you. Theater was supposed to catalyze some sort of transformation, even, right? That stuff is supposed to be meaningful. And it is still meaningful. I think that is still happening now, that kind of transformation, only in a far more unconscious and unguarded way. We're feeding on millions of images and they're still initiatory, meaning that they have the power to transform you, but most of us are not exactly asking questions like, oh, what is this doing to me? How do I digest this avalanche of news? What is this awakening within me? Is it awakening the good potential, the good things that I'm looking for, or is it bringing me down? Is it lowering the bar? All right. And I think that algal influences can be called demonic in the sense that it symbolizes separation, blinding us from how we're impacted by imagery. And Venus is going to square Saturn on May 28th, 29th, which means a lot of us are going to feel or experience a separation of some kind, an alienation from others or from our own body or mind. And this new moon and the entire lunar month until June 14th, 15th can help you realize more deeply what you've been absorbing, how you've let your emotions take shape so that you can take back that power and make better decisions. Maybe you decide not to get hijacked and petrified by certain narratives or fixed habits, refusing to be turned to stone by something and instead get smarter about it, be cunning like Perseus, and look at these powerful influences in an indirect way. So use your shiny shield. And I think the benefic planets Venus and Jupiter in Cancer form the perfect combination actually to restore your sense of feeling at home in your own body, really getting in touch with or becoming aware of all those ebbing and flowing moods and emotions. And honestly, the benefics don't even need you to make too much effort to discover all of that. All right, these were some of my musings on this lunar activation of Algol. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoy this, please let me know by giving this video a like. It really helps me out. Subscribe for more, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. All right, I'll see you next time. Thank you.